Christian, the new ATFI Global Green Energy Transport and Technology Leaders Index doesn't just look at the EV supply chain, but looks at a much wider supply chain. Why is that?
Well, we had, and this comes from following on the discussion on the first question. So once we realized that there is a certain localization happening, we're asking ourselves, so what else is important and relevant for the to grow the acceptance and the adoption of electric vehicles? And this is where we realized that building the cars and equipping them with batteries and the right semiconductors and chips is one thing, but also giving them enough energy, I have enough loading stations available for those cars is a big thing. And also who's producing this energy? And there's a very important question embedded in this, because EV car adoption happens most in the bigger cities, but mostly in those cities, people don't own garages where they have their own wall plug-in and then they can charge. So how to build this kind of infrastructure? That's the kind of questions we're trying to capture with the index as well. So we have the cars built with all its components, but the overall ecosystem around this car, energy infrastructure, how is it produced, and also it should be renewable energy, otherwise you don't have this benefit of going electric. That also should be captured. So that's why we thought by building this more extended universe for this index makes more sense in order to capture the wider ecosystem of EVs.
Alfred and Peter, do you have anything to add?
I think, well, to Christian's point, that one of the challenges now that we're addressing on our platform by combining, next generation fintech with data collection and machine learning is addressing the challenge of capturing rapid innovation across the entire supply chain. So if you think about what we're talking about as an example in the EV space or green energy, et cetera, is you have multiple forces that need to be captured in order to have a representative index that captures that dynamic. One, you need to capture the restructuring of the supply chain, as we've discussed, and the regionalization of that supply chain. So it requires that induces data challenges in order to collect alternative data to capture things that might not be have a long history or represented by current data sets. And then secondly, you need to be able to have a process and a platform to capture that rapid innovation. So having an index that has not changed, whose constituents are the constituents from 5 years ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago in a space like electric vehicles or green energy, given how much the innovation cycle being monthly, not yearly, prevents you from really capturing the essence of the innovation itself and ends up with stale indexes. And so what we're addressing is trying to capture those forces in a way by using modern data collection techniques and modern technology and machine learning and AI. So on the one hand, the investment opportunity set is evolving rapidly in these spaces, and that's both exciting from an investor's point of view because there's interesting returns to capture, but it poses the challenge of creating financial products, in this case indexes, that actually capture that innovation and restructuring.
Alfred?
So one additional commentary is that the space of electric vehicles is still in its early phases. And so the industry structure is quite fragmented, both from the supply chain of components as well as the players itself. And so similar to many other sectors that we've observed in the China market, where we see hundreds, if not thousands of competitors, we will also see a consolidation of those players over time. And the market has also changed significantly from I would say, government subsidy-driven market to a more economics cost-driven market. And so the innovation component will be increasingly important for the consolidation of the space. So I think it's important to use alternative data and kind of ways to track sort of the innovation development to really get exposure to the right sort of companies, and over time to to be exposed to the winning players as the space consolidates.